Okay, here we are at the regional that Misty and I came down to do some training at, and this is another top person in Alouette. Her name is Reon, and I remember actually I watched your video. I watched your video with doing gifts and things to learn some things from. I remember years
Oh,
ago,
really?
and again another person who I always thought was so much fun and so outgoing. And of course, last night she was telling us all kinds of stories and had us in stitches. And I wanted her to share a little bit about her story about getting started in Alouette, and then on there about really having the lifestyle that Alouette has. So when you first got started, you all were all gangbusters. You wanted to do it right away?
No, no.
Okay.
My story is a little different. I started using the products because I had terrible skin. My mom had gone to a show and she saw the product. They talked about the aloe vera and how wonderful it was. She booked her own show. I didn't show up. She calls me about 8:30. Where the heck are you? I said, crap, I forgot. She said, that's all right. Your show's next Thursday. And so she booked me a show, and I said, what do I got to do? She said, just to get some girlfriends over there, get them to come over and get the pound cake. That's all you got to do. And I said, I said, that's it? She said, that's it. I was really excited. I called my friend and said, listen, my mom booked me something, come.
Oh
That's how I invited my first show. The girl came. I started using skincare, fell in love. For the next 3 years, I did shows. I would call my girl. I needed cleanser. I needed toner. I needed whatever. And when I would need it, I'd call and say, okay, I'm out of this, not here on the calculator with her fingernails. And she would say, okay, your total is da-da-da. Do you want to give me your credit card, mail me a check, or would you like to get it for 85% off? Well, I'm not stupid, so I would get it. I'd book my show. I'd invite my friends over, and I did that for 3 years. She never once asked me to become a consultant. I guess she thought I was too ugly or something, I don't know. But anyway, so finally the girl that always did my shows was sick. So the company does this thing called show share, as you all know, and they sent somebody else. Well, this girl was new and nervous, and my friends all were very familiar with the products. And so they started talking among themselves, and I was like, and I always had all the newest products because I was a hostess. And so I'd be like, no, you got to try the Essential Cleansing Oil. It will dissolve your makeup on contact. Or you got to try this, whatever was the newest thing. And so the girl looked at me and she said, you really ought to be selling this because you know more about it than I do. And I was like, I got a job. And so a little while later, I said something else. And she said, well, you really ought to do this and you can make great money. I was like, no, I have a job. And she said, well, you can make great money. I was like, no, well, how much? Because you really want to know. And so she said, well, I made $125 and she'd been at my house like 2 hours. And I'm thinking, crap. And so I decided to do it. She brought me my training materials. I did my show on Thursday. She brought my training materials on Friday. It was like this huge 3-ring binder. I read the entire thing sitting in the swing outside. It was in May. I went to class on Tuesday, picked up my kit, and I did my first show on Thursday night. When I got to my show, I was so petrified that I took my kid inside, started unpacking. I told the girl I had forgotten something out in the car, went and popped the trunk, squatted down behind my car, and threw up. I was petrified. And I said, Lord, if you will help me through this show, I'll never ask you for anything again as long as I live. And I went back in there, and I was shaking like a leaf. I mean, honestly, I had on a dress, and you could see it like vibrating. It was horrible. And I wanted to get through. I'll never forget it because the next day, I did not call Sandy that night or anything. And the next day, she calls me. She's like, hey, girl, how was your show? I was like, it was fine. She said, well, how much you sell? I said, oh, it's like $500. She's like, oh, okay. Well, did you get bookings? I said, yeah, I got 4. She's like, okay, that's great. And I said, by the way, there's some girl who wants you to call her. I think she wants to sell it too. And she's like, well, wait a minute. I don't understand why you're not excited. And then she said, well, do you realize you made $125? I went, oh, so I got paid? And she's like, well, yeah. See, I thought I didn't get paid to do the 6 shows. And so I was like, dang, I can throw up for $125 a night. And so I was like, then I got excited. So I started doing it. Well, that show, I got my very first recruit. And I've been doing it for almost 18 years. And I have never run out of business. I mean, when I went on maternity leave with my second child, I gave shows away. When I was ready to go back to work, I called Sandy. I said, please come do a show at my house. Give me some bookies so I can leave this child. She was driving me nuts. I was not built to be a stay-at-home mom. And the beauty of this business is it changes with my life. I mean, I started out with a 3-year-old. She went to school. I had another child. Now she's 13, almost 14. My first daughter is out on her own now. I mean, this business evolves and it becomes what you want it to be, when you want it to be, what you want it to be. There's been times when I wanted to do 2 shows a week. There's been times when I wanted to do 9 shows a week. It's beautiful any way you want to do it. It's the way I want to do it when I want to do it. It's my dream, my vision, and what I want.
You know, Sandy said, or sorry, Reon said something really interesting last night that caught my attention. You said, I have never missed anything in my children's lives. And, you know, we recruit women who their whole thing is about, I'm too busy and I've got to be at everything. But you said it with such passion. I've never missed anything.
Right.
And yet the first thing that I'm thinking of is people are saying, well, how could you be successful in Alouette and be at everything that your kids are doing?
Right. Well, it's all about scheduling. I mean, both my girls were very involved. Well, we were involved in church and youth things and stuff at church. I'm involved in women's groups and stuff at church, and both of my kids were involved in soccer. And so when they're involved in soccer, I will put their games. Now, I don't go to every practice. I do not need to see them run drills. I mean, I don't need to sit there for that. But I want to be there when they shoot that goal. I want to be there to see them, master that defense technique they've been doing the whole time. So I'll put it on my calendar, and like if there is scheduled where I can do a show on Saturday, then I do a show on Saturday. But if I can't, being the businesswoman, knowing my bills, knowing my budget, then I'll do a show on a day of the week that I don't normally do. But I don't miss what my kids do. I schedule it around. If there's a field trip going on, I schedule it, and I do more shows the week before and more shows the week after. I don't miss it. I mean, go to Barrier Island twice. That's the thing where you go into a mud pit. Not my idea of fun, but it's a memory. Right. And so I don't get to do that anymore. My kids now are almost 14 and almost 20. There's no do-overs when it comes to them. You're not going to get the end of your life and go, dang, I wish I'd have got to go to work more. My kids are the memories. And I took my 13-year-old to a show with me not too long ago, and I take my daughter sometimes, and the hostess are always loving on them, and she's she takes them in the kitchen at the end and she's let me fix you something to eat or whatever. And I overhear Megan in the kitchen, and these grown women are talking to her, and because I had talked about going to the Mediterranean, and Megan went to the Mediterranean with me, and I hear her talking about, oh yeah, we went to the Vatican. And we went to this vineyard, and she couldn't remember all the names. She said, we went to the place that Pinocchio, because I'm a Disney holic, we went to the place where the story from Pinocchio came from, and we went to the place where I'm convinced they filmed Mamma Mia, which they really didn't, but she thinks it was. And then she starts talking about going to Jamaica and going on the Alaskan cruise, and these grown women are standing there with their jaws hung open at what this 13-year-old daughter. And I looked at that hostess. By the way, I ended up getting 3 recruits in that chain of shows. Those grown women looked at her, and I looked at them at the end of that, and I said, you know what? If I had been working that job that I was working when I got introduced to Alouette, I'd have never taken the money to go on those kind of vacations, because something would have always came up.
Absolutely.
The refrigerator would have always broken. Something would have always happened.
Okay, we just have 1 minute left.
Okay.
I want you to just briefly say what you said yesterday about when you got that first $1,500 check and you deposited it and the effect that it had on you.
I got that first $1,500 check, and I was
bonus check.
My manager's check. I was petrified because I thought that was a one-time deal, and I was so afraid to ever get dependent on that. That I was the one time I would only ever get it one time. I called Sandy, my president, from the drive-thru at the bank, crying because I was afraid of that money. And she said, Reon, this does not have to be a fluke. You can do it all the time. Since then, fast forward a couple of years, I get a new house. And by the way, in Alouette, doing Alouette, I have lost a house, got myself out of financial ruins, and got a house 3 times bigger than what I had, the house that I lost.
That's great.
And I got house payment, and every month, my manager's check has been enough to cover that house payment, which is right around $1,500. So it was like a sign God said, here, I'm going to show you just what you can do.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Reon. Thank you. All right. Great inspiration.